How's it going, everybody? This is Dominic Minchella, Kansas City Chiefs co-beat writer for On SI and the host of the Kansas City Chiefs Insider Podcast. Do just want to say that I am back in the normal setup, so I am happy that if you're still tuning in and all that, I appreciate it for the time being away. But as we typically do on the Kansas City Chiefs Insider Podcast, after a victory or a defeat for the Kansas City Chiefs, we review the offensive line. Now, the offensive line was a big struggle for the Kansas City Chiefs last season. As we know, a huge target area of improvement going into the offseason. They did find a way to bring in the likes of Josh Simmons and Jalen Moore to help out the offensive line in hopes that it will be able to better protect Patrick Mahomes. Yet in week 9 against the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, arguably their biggest rival that they have in the league today, they resembled how they did last season in 2024. I talked about this in the podcast yesterday, kind of giving a lead into how this topic was going to be today. In my mind, I believe that the offensive line last game in week 9 against the Buffalo Bills for the Kansas City Chiefs was not terrific. It was very subpar, and I felt like it was playing below average. We've seen this offensive line play so much better, and yet in a game when it was so big, a lot of momentum could have been on their side if they were able to get a win in that game last night. I guess 2 days now from the time that this gets published. It would have done great things for Kansas City going into their bye week, which is now this week. So be sure you stay tuned to the Kansas City Chiefs Insider Podcast, as well as Kansas City Chiefs on SI. Look it up. It has the full array of stories and news, all things Kansas City Chiefs. It's the best coverage. You're not going to want to miss it. But without further ado, let's review the offensive line, the starting offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs, according to Pro Football Focus, as we do every single week. So be sure, if you are a fan of a Kansas City Chiefs, that you tell somebody that this is what we always do. We break it down and kind of give my thoughts about it. So the left tackle situation, obviously the starting left tackle typically for the Kansas City Chiefs is Josh Simmons. He was out for another week due to some personal issues, but as news has been released, Josh Simmons has returned to the Kansas City Chiefs, and just in time for it being a bye week. So whatever he had in his personal life, I hope that all went well. But in a football sense of things, Jalen Moore took over at the left tackle position. In 60 snaps, he had an overall offensive grade of a 65.2, a 69.1 pass blocking grade, and a run blocking grade of a 57.8. This kind of has been the 4-1-1 for Jalen Moore this season. Is overall, he's going to be a serviceable guy. I think that he is deserving of the money that the Kansas City Chiefs gave him in the offseason. He was the highest paid free agent. However, I do think that Jalen Moore has a lot more to prove, and I would have liked to see like this portion of stepping in for Josh Simmons kind of be an example of where the Chiefs and how well the Chiefs put their money towards in investing on the offensive line. All in all, though, he has 0 penalties, and that's always something good to reflect on. I think that Jalen Moore is a serviceable guy. He had a 41 pass block snaps in his game out of the 60, so it makes sense as to why he had a very high grade in the pass block department. The left guard, 59 total snaps in Kingsley Suamataia. He had an overall grade of a 75.5, which led the starting offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs. So good for Kingsley Suamataia to finally kind of have a game where he can really step forward, especially in a game against the Buffalo Bills. It's crucial to see younger players kind of step in to a veteran role. He was leaned on, he needed to be good, and he was. Overall grade of a 75.5 and 59 snaps. 40 of the snaps were pass blocking snaps, and he had a 67.9 overall grade. Very successful. We're not going to get mad at that, but the real kicker and what he had success in was a run blocking grade of a 75.4. he had 19 run blocking snaps played. So a little small sample size, but still in the small sample size, it is crucial. You don't really necessarily pay attention to the impact that is depending on how well it is of a lot of snaps or very few snaps. So for Kingsley, good for him. Center Creed Humphrey, as always, he's been a stud this season. A 73.8 overall grade from Pro Football Focus, an 84.4 pass blocking grade, and a 69.1 run blocking grade. Creed Humphrey obviously had the 41 pass blocking snaps and 19 run blocking as well, just based off of how the rest of the offensive line was. So all in all, until Creed Humphrey really falls off, I think that he's a very serviceable guy, and he's the best part of the offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs. I'll go on record and say it. I say it almost every single week. I think that if he's not there, he puts the center in the center of the offensive line. I think he holds them all together, holds them accountable, and he's a leader out there. So once again, good game by Creed Humphrey. Trey Smith, he had 60 total snaps and earned an overall grade of a 65.4. He was dealing with a little bit of a troublesome injury when it came to last week. Coming back, he was able to play, and he showed up and showed out. While 65.4 isn't necessarily the highest grade he has ever gotten, it is a respectable one. Additionally, with that, he had a 49.6 pass blocking grade, but he did have a 69.7 run blocking grade. That's typically where he will stay and really succeed, and it really stopped. That big presence makes sense as to why the Kansas City Chiefs paid him this offseason. So all in all, good to see Trey Smith is healthy. And last but not least, Jawaan Taylor, right tackle, 43 total snaps played and a 44.4 overall grade, 61.2 pass blocking grade, and a 39.2 run blocking grade with a penalty once more. Now, I say this often, and I try my best to be as respectful as possible. I still think that Jawaan Taylor is a little bit of a weak link on this offensive line, and if Josh Simmons does come back, it might, or when he does, rather, he is coming back. Excuse me, Jalen Moore should be an option to slide in at that right tackle spot. In my opinion, Wanya Morris, he is also another guy. He also had another penalty. The right tackle area might be an area for the Kansas City Chiefs to kind of experiment and hope that their offensive line can really hold up in protecting Patrick Mahomes, but really just have a lot more ball security, especially for how much money Jawaan Taylor's making and the leadership that does bring to the team. It is a little unfortunate to see that he has been having a little bit of struggles this season. But all in all, folks, the offensive line has a lot of things to improve on, and hopefully they reflect on the first portion of the season that they had. Going into the bye week, they finished with a 5-4 record. They come out of the bye week 11, and really, in my mind, if they can get through November with a winning record, the rest of the way for Kansas City is a way for them to get into the playoffs. They currently peek their head in the door of the playoff picture, currently sit in third place in the AFC West behind the Denver Broncos and the Los Angeles Chargers. But all in all, folks, let me know what you think about the Chiefs offensive line this season. Do you think that it's improving? Do you think that it's kind of stalemate? Or do you think that it's status quo for what we saw last season? I would love to know. You can let me know by following over on X at Dom Minchella. I post every single day and repost. You're not going to want to miss any coverage of the Kansas City Chiefs while we go into another regular season game and a bye week, really. It's going to be a fun coverage time. Be sure you also follow us over at KC Chiefs on SI over on the site. This bye week is going to be a lot of big news and some that you want to keep your tabs on. So, as always, be sure to be kind to one another. I'll be seeing you tomorrow.